Hi, everybody, once again to Astrology Unplugged. We're just going to keep doing this till we do it right. It is an astrology show most of the time, sometimes spiritually oriented. Tonight, I was digging around through my idea box and trying to come up with what would be the topic for tonight's show. And I ran across, if you've gone to my YouTube channel, YouTube has decided 8 years ago, 7 years ago, to play a video of one of my lectures. And they play the video automatically of me teaching about Uranus in its 21-year stages. So that's what tonight is. I figured a lot of you have not watched the video, or maybe you know some about it. And it is a lecture I did 10 years ago, which is the first thing you see when you go on YouTube. So tonight, this will be show 338, and the topic will be the Uranus stages. And I felt it was good to bring it up now because we talked so much about Uranus last week. Now, what am I talking about? Well, there's a difference between a planet coming by and hitting you. There's a difference between a planet going by and hitting something in the birth chart. There's a difference between two planets in the sky hitting each other. What I'm talking about is a planet related to itself. So we're going to look at Uranus when you were born. We're going to look at Uranus 21 years later when it's at a square to itself. So you're all going to have it. So Uranus is weird because it travels through space on its side, but it's very constant in its 84-year orbit. 7 years per sign, 21 years per quadrant. So every 21 years, it goes into another quadrant. So the first 21 years is it's square to itself. The second 21 years at age 42, for all of us, it's opposite itself. That's the midlife crisis. Age 63, where it's squaring itself once again. That's the closing square. That would be another crisis, but it's a smaller C than the one at age 42. Then the big one is at 84, if you're still lucid. At 84, Uranus returns back to where it started. So these are very major time periods. You'll be able to see this clearly in all your lifetimes, all your friends, your parents. You'll see this very clearly. It may take a little bit of thinking. So remember, we're not talking about your chart. We're talking about where is Uranus in relationship to where it was when you were born. And the fact that Uranus has a very systematic, consistent 84-year pattern orbit, you can easily divide it into 21-year chunks. Also, since 84 years is 3 Saturn returns, anytime Uranus is hitting you by this method, Saturn's also getting stirred up. So isn't that weird that you're getting Uranus and Saturn at the same time, which I will mention a little bit, but not too much because I don't want to confuse you. Here's the graphic that I use. Let me see if I can get the right. I got to get all the right buttons anymore. Oh man, I got so many buttons anymore. Share the screen, and we'll go to there. Okay, so you can see that in astrology, there are no signs of the zodiac here. We're simply using this to divide the pie into 12 pieces. And in astrology, it helps you in many, many ways when you're analyzing something to put that something on the first house. This is what we call the first house right here. In the zodiac, this is where Aries starts and where Pisces ends. So you can see that if you were born, we're gonna take everybody that's born and put their Uranus here. It has nothing to do with your rising sign. nothing to do with your ascendant. So for everybody in this class tonight, everybody watching this video, we're going to put Uranus right there, mythically, for when you were born. And age 7, and age 14, and age 21, and age 28. It's very consistent. Uranus is very steady, 7 years per. So the first stage that we run across is the 1 in 21. Okay? Now, I want to make sure I click the right buttons. All right. Now, when you are 21, Uranus has gotten to the opening square. Now, the opening square is truthful and valid for any planet, like the sun squaring the sun after 90 days. That's why you have 90-day trials. The Saturn, every 7 years, 7 day, it's like in a marriage. So the opening square is nothing more than the conjunction opening up to its first square. Now, squares are very heavy duty because the first square is testing your ability to Uranianize yourself. Try that out. How well is Uranus functioning in your life? How well is Uranus functioning in your first 24 years? Now, if you have a family that raises you and they're kind of loosey-goosey and they give you a lot of freedom to be yourself and they encourage you to be yourself, then you're in really a lot of good favor for this time period. However, if you're with a family that's very repressive, stopping you, people are afraid of life, holding you back, making you extra cautious, then the Uranus square Uranus is usually tumultuous. Because what do you think happens when Uranus squares Uranus? It's the first test to your ability to answer the question, am I being myself? So what happens when you're 21? You're driving a car now, you're able to vote now, you're drinking whiskey now, you're off to college. It's usually a very exciting time at age 21, and this is the reason why. And the reason it's so family oriented is because the opening square is Uranus at the 4th house. As we know, the bottom of the chart is the home, top of the chart is the business or the world. So when Uranus finally gets through the first 3 signs or 3 houses and gets to the cusp of the 4th, is now entering the home area. Now, what do we know about Uranus? What does it do? Uranus will come through you very strongly and make you want to do things that are kind of off the wall. You want to be yourself. You want to liberate yourself. You maybe get involved with a lot of wild people. There's a very good chance of that. Matter of fact, during this time, you will probably get involved with some really liberating people or some people that are really wild. It'll usually be one or the other. And the wild can be no good for you at times. So at age 21, this is why people are so hard to deal with when they get to that age. They need to go beyond the family's influence. The seed has grown. They need to graduate from being part of the family. If it's done right, you still love your family. There's no huge argument. You carry on what you can. But if your daddy's a shoemaker and he's insisting on you being a shoemaker and you want to go play rock and roll, well, you got a problem. And the rock and roll's going to win, and there will be family tension. So what's happening here, you can see in the graph, let me get all my buttons right. You can see that you've already gone through H7, you've gone into your 2nd house, and you've gone into your 3rd house at age 14, which are all symbolic and important stages, but this is a really, really big one. This is really, really big because for the first time, you're free from the family and you're starting to think about where am I going? Where am I going? And you hear so many families talking about, well, he needs to go find himself for a while. She needs to go find herself. And it's absolutely true. And if you think about what happened to you at age 21, in most cases, this is what happened. I myself at age 19, 20, 21 was just really wild, free, fun-loving, adventurous years, meeting great people, experimenting. Of course, it was the late 60s, so you had that also. But the main reason why this is happening is because that first fourth of the pie is when you enter the family area. So you're going to stick with family issues where they're healthy for you. You're going to stick with family traditions where they're good for you. But you're likely to revolt against them if they're repressive, if the reasoning is wrong. Uranus is a marvelous planet, but Uranus can be a pain in the butt because it wants to know why. Why are we doing this? Why? And as you know, that can be an uncomfortable question. So it's a wonderful time usually, or it's just complete chaos. And if you look back, you'll see that you separated from your family. Sometimes it's ugly, sometimes it's not so bad, but these things need to happen. And a couple of things I didn't mention last week because I just had so many things in my mind. The more repressive you are, or the more repressive your background has been, is directly proportional to how explosive a Uranian time period will be. If your parents are understanding, they're astrologers and they understand that's what's happening to the child, you let them go. And of course, you let them know, I'm still here with you, and etc., etc. But you know they need to spread their wings. So we don't need to go into each of your experiences, but you can see if you look at yourself, look at your parents, look at your brothers and sisters, look at your friends, look at your animals, if they live that long, look at your business. Anything is 21. Anything. It's a great big deal. Now, I'm going to do a curveball here and go to the side and come back to this because Teresa, our detective, came up with something really good when we were pre-recording here before we started. She was talking about getting some bad advice when you're online, astrologically. I'm just gonna, you know me, I'm a straight shooter. I'll shoot straight, tell you what I know, what I don't know. There are a lot of really bad astrologers out there. And more, there are a lot of good ones. It's happening. They're growing and they're becoming more Jungian, which is the main reason they're really getting good. But one of the clues you need to know about a bad astrologer, which is what I call bad, is somebody that doesn't know astrology. They're BSing you and they're trying to get you over here off of this tangent and that tangent. Are they making sense? Are their stories lining up with what you're experiencing? That's why I work so hard with you to always bring it back to what are you experiencing? What's coming out of you? That to me is the humanistic way, and that to me is what you need. And all I'm saying to you is if you're listening to a certain astrologer, and usually the lower the cleavage is the lower their talent. I can't say that hard. But there's definitely a correlation between the cleavage and the astrological ability. You can tell when somebody knows what the planets are doing. Okay. And if they're starting to talk about the seventh mansion of the 14th Kahute or whatever, they probably don't know what they're talking about. When astrologers start getting off into this woo land, it's usually indicative that don't know what they're doing. Now you listen to Rick talk. Rick knows a lot about astrology. He's done the work. And he and I are a little bit different. He does more asteroids than I do, but I don't put him down for it. Matter of fact, I'm learning from him about asteroids. But he has an understanding what these planets represent, what's going on inside you. Because a chart is you unfolding. That's all it is. It's your unfolding in some fashion. End of that lecture. All right. So, when you see somebody going through goofy stuff at age 21, you now know precisely what's going on. If they've had repressive parents, look out. If they've been repressive to themselves, look out. If they've been healthy about trying new things, I'm going to go to Jamaica by myself. Let them go. Another thing about Uranus does not send you to Paris or London. It sends you to Timbuktu and southern parts of Perth. It sends you to these weird places. How did I get here? And Uranus found a way to do it because, not that there's anything wrong with Perth, but I mean, that's really far away. Not many people know much about it. It stretches you, wants you to try things that are off the wall, going with people that you never thought you would travel with. So that's what happens at 21. Now, when you get out of the 21, you get into the 22 and the 23, things start to settle down somewhat. Okay. And remember, we're not going to get into Saturn yet. As Uranus keeps moving, things start to calm down as Uranus keeps moving. You're starting to find yourself, and your success at 22, 23, 24 is directly related to how successful you were at 21 of letting go and trying new things. Now, the more sincere you are at 21, the better. If you're just doing goofy stuff to be goofy, you're not in for a good time. But if you're really using it as a time to go find yourself, it's excellent. It's really good. Things that are common, changing your hairstyle, changing your friends, changing the kind of car you drive, changing the kind of colors you like, the music you listen to, it's just dramatic. That's what Uranus does. Okay. Then, as you see on the graphic, Uranus goes through the 4th house. Now, myself, recently, it was going through my real 5th house. Okay, it was right on the cusp there during COVID. Right there. What a time to get COVID locked up, right? 5th house. Music, entertainment, children, playing, expression, creativity. I've been playing guitar 50 years, and I'm no good, but I can strum a tune, I never took it real seriously, but I've had fun playing songs. And I've only written 1 or 2 songs in my life. Well, when COVID hit, I got this obsession about learning how to pick, because I never learned how to pick. And I got this obsession, and I wrote 10 songs. And they're not great, but that's where that came from. And when it came by, I said, boy, this is Uranian. And I looked, there it was on the natal 5th house, the natal 5th house. And as it was going in and out, it got stronger and stronger, weaker for those couple of years. And I had fun learning how to write, learning a lot different style, learning how to pick, et cetera, et cetera. Now, the critical thing that's coming here is when Uranus gets to the 7th house. Okay. Now, this one's very misunderstood. This one is very easy to get trapped in a negative connotation. This is the midlife crisis. When Uranus is around 42, 41, 43, and Uranus is opposite where it started from, you're about 42. Now, when it gets there, I don't care what your chart says. When any opposition happens, it has a 7th house connotation to it. So Uranus is opposite itself. The zodiac, this is the self. This is the other. This is the self. This is me plus you. This is the home. This is the world. This is this actual structure. The skeleton of an astrology chart, if you will. Again, the self is all about the first house, the other, or relationships with the other, me and my home and my background, my lineage, and where am I going? Where am I going in the world? What is my calling? So at age 42, it can become really critical. It's usually your most important Uranian time of your life. The one at 21 is wild and crazy, but you've already been wild and crazy because you've been 19 and 18. So it's not that shocking. The one at 42 is really pretty shocking because back at 28, you've already had your Saturn return. At 28, you've had Saturn go around one time and return. So you've got a taste of growing up. But at 42, what happens is what? You got Uranus, which is always asking, am I being myself? Am I growing up? Am I having fun? Am I being the real me that Fred Rogers talks about? Uranus opposite Uranus. So why is it so critical? Because most of us screw up pretty royally when it comes to relating with others. How many of us go into relationships with the other and everything's just hunky-dory and just fine? Not many of us, because we're not trained right. We're not trained appropriately. And whoever's teaching us is trying, but it's not an easy transition. So at age 42, you are looking at yourself. You are looking at yourself, and a lot of people use it real wrongly. Those are the ones who want to just leave the family. They want to quit their job. They want to go up in the mountains to find themselves all by themselves. They go into a wild reaction, and it can be very dangerous time period. The proper use, and I don't like to use that word proper, which is such a Capricornian word. The healthy usage of Uranus opposite Uranus is you take a good look at the kind of relationships you've had. You take a good look at the ones that you're in, the ones that failed, the one that succeeded, and you analyze, what did I do in them that helped me? What did I do with this person that it was good? What did I do with that person that it was terrible? So it's always got to do with, am I allowing myself to be myself when I'm with you? And for a lot of people, that's just not easy because so many of us are programmed to keep the other one happy. Keep the other happy, Libras. Then you'll really know you're okay. Wrong. And Libras have to go through this because it's so deeply built into them to keep the couple happy. They usually, once they get about halfway through life or after this transit, usually they start to think about, well, I don't need a partner as bad as I think I did. I'm going to take care of myself. And that's when things start getting better. One of the things you want to watch for with any Uranus transit is drastic reactions. You know if somebody's going through a Uranus square Uranus or Uranus opposite Uranus, and they tell you they want to sell the whole farm for $5. Let's slow down. They want to sell Manhattan for $26. Now let's slow down. Let's slow down. Think about this. But it's very common to want a knee-jerk reaction. It's also very Jovian, which is Jupiter. Jupiter and Uranus are similar in some ways. Both of them can get knee-jerk reaction. Let's just sell everything. They'll love it. Believe me. Invest everything you got in it. No. Let's calm down a little bit. But the main thing that's happening at the Uranus opposition is a lot of people do get divorced. And the books will tell you this is a divorce transit. And it's not a divorce transit. It's a time for you to liberate yourself transit, which may entail getting divorced. You see how it works? Well, you were asking, somebody was asking earlier about good and bad transits. In most cases, there are no good and bad transits. They're just transits. And sometimes when the transits are too heavy, such as right now, when it's just too much, most people can't handle it. And most people are not handling the current transits right now very well because it's just never been seen before with Pluto squaring Eris. This is why. These two have never done it. They've never done it before, ever. It's not simple. So, one of the important things that happens during Uranus, you got to really avoid blaming her, blaming him. If your job was better, I'd be better off. Well, if you would do the dishes all the time, I'd be better off. You got to really watch and avoid the temptation to start blaming the other. Because in most cases, it's not the other's fault. It can be sometimes. Sometimes you better call that person on the carpet and lay some new ground rules down. Yes, especially if they're repressive of you. But you've got to look at yourself. What am I doing? Am I selling myself out? Am I not being myself in hopes that they'll accept me more? There's the more likely situation. And that's the beauty of a Uranus time. It will bring you people, it will bring you books and movies and stories to help you learn to liberate yourself. And the opposite. If you've been very repressive, and Uranus comes along, oh man, it's just things start cracking and blowing up. They just start cracking, breaking. Why? Because you're not showing us or yourself after 42 years, you're not displaying any proof that you're in touch with Uranian energy. When you grow up in touch with this energy, new things come about and you adjust to it, fine. People want to go curveball. They want to go here instead of going there. And you say, okay, let's go. When you're flexible and you're trying new things, then you're kind of flexible. It's one of the keys to Uranus. When you're rigid and no, I don't want to go there, and I heard it's not a good place and it's not any fun, and you're just really overly negative and you got things all figured out ahead of time, you're in trouble, including especially in your health. Things will start breaking and cracking. I can't tell you how common it is for broken ankles, broken lower leg. That's the area that Uranus rules, the lower leg and the ankles. It's unbelievable how many people have trouble in strains and breaks in that area. And it's because they've been too rigid all along. I had a girl in my class once, a long time ago, and I saw Uranus going to hit her Pluto. And I was still learning myself. And Uranus is going to hit Pluto. And I felt it was uh, my duty to let her know, here comes Uranus, it's going to hit your Pluto. This is a dangerous planet. I'm sorry to tell you it is, that you might get out of this with no problem, but I have to tell you and warn you, this is like Mack truck is in my lane. This is not a good transit. And the day came by and it went no problem. And what's weird about that is Uranus is usually exact that day, that moment. It's the only one like that. And she went a couple of weeks and nothing happened. And then all of a sudden she called me, told me she tripped over a rock in the parking lot and broke her ankle. And I looked and I looked and I looked and I saw there's another thing in astrology where you have to advance the planets so far from where they are according to your age. It's called a progression. But anyhow, when I applied that recession rule to it, we saw it was exact that day instead of the original one. So things do happen. But why does the woman have trouble with the ankle? Why do they have trouble with the lower calf muscle? Because the calf muscle and the lower ankle, and including the thigh, they're just so important to the body in terms of going somewhere. Going, the power is the Jupiter, the thigh, the heavy hips. And twisting and turning and being agile is the lower leg and the ankle. So that's why those two planets are so critical. So when I see what I do now with people like that, because it's really scary to tell people stuff like that, what I tell people now is when I see it coming, I work with them on loosening up. Let's get you loosened up. Let's get you taking more chances. Let's get you doing this, trying that, and that. And then when the planet comes, you may have a little twist to your leg, but you don't hurt your leg. I had a guy in my office once, middle-aged. He was so repressed. His parents had hurt him so bad that he couldn't go out. And I finally talked him into going out to one of the local bars where maybe some of his friends were at, and he really wanted to give it a try. He was scared to death. I almost had to walk this guy to the bar myself, but I didn't. But that's the kind of number that the parents did on him. And what happened to him? He got up that night and he went outside and he went all the way to the bar and he opened the door and he shut the door and he ran back home. I can't judge it. This is somebody that cannot deal with Uranian energy. And Uranian energy is not weird. It's part of you. It's a part of you that wants to, oh, let me put those books aside for a while. Let's go have a little party for a while. You need that part. This guy had always repressed it. So you get all kinds, and you have to really understand what's happening. So during Uranus, what's happening is you got to be really honest with yourself. Is my problem her? Is her problem me? Is the problem how I was brought up? Is it my rules? What is it? And you take a look at yourself at 42. When I was 42, somebody gave me a job and put me in charge of an entire college. I was learning a new software at the time. They didn't know how to do it at this college. They hired me and said, here's your office, go. And they put me in charge of an entire college, and I rewrote all the software for the whole college that liberated everybody, made it so in those days, made it so the user could go get what he needed. You know, that wasn't happening in the early days. Like it is now, everything click, 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 and it all happens. But it was a very liberating experience for me because I worked real hard to liberate that school. Mine came out through what I was doing with the school, and it ended up affecting me. I took it upon myself to be more self-liberating, etc. You see. So if you fail during the midlife crisis, it means you're letting somebody else win over you. It means you're selling yourself out to be liked, and boy, is that a big deal. Are you selling yourself out to be liked? It is such a major common occurrence in astrology. So that's the story. And during 42, you should come out the other end more capable, more flexible. When I say no, I mean no. When I say yes, I mean yes. You don't have to be mean about it, but you're more in charge of yourself. Does this make any sense to you all when you were 42? Make any sense? Okay, good.
Yes.
Good. Thank you, Erica. Good. Now, of course, as you go through life, you become a little more ingrained and a little more used to your patterns, and things get a little tougher. And then you go through the 7th house and the 8th house and the 9th house, and eventually you get to the 63 one, which I've gone through a lot of clients recently have come to me at 63. This is when Uranus is now 3/4 of the way around. See? Uranus is now here. Uranus has started here 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. So now it's 3/4 the way around. It's now squaring the natal position once again, but now it's the closing square. It's not the opening square, it's the closing square. You're around 63, and this is also known as a midlife crisis, but usually it's a small c crisis, not the big C. So what happens here is really intriguing to watch. And I have so many clients come to me that are going through critical turning points at 64 and 65. I'm seeing so much of it now. And I think there are other reasons with Eris involved that are causing it. But I think a lot of people that fail to make their switch at 21, that fail to make their turning point at 42, they get the message at 63. I've done all this stuff against my will. I'm not going to do it again. And a lot of people make the turn at 63, and it's marvelous. I can't tell you how many people have lifelong illnesses. All of a sudden, the 63 goes away. That's not magic. It's because they're starting to allow their energy through. Well, we're really bad. We're just a bad species when it comes to allowing ourselves to be free. So at 63, you're having the same questions again. Usually your kids are grown by then. You're nearing retirement age. And the question once again, excuse me once. Let's see here. Okay. So what happens at this age? You're a lot older, you're a lot wiser, and you're saying to yourself, well, if I liberate myself now, it's not that big of a deal. Like I thought it was when I was 42. And like I thought it was when I was 21. And most of the people come see me at 63. They just had it. I got it here. They just have had it. They've had it. I'm not listening to any more stories. I'm not listening to anybody turn me off. I don't care what it was. And what I have a lot of fun with is this. Tell me what happened to your parents when they were turned 63. So I asked him, how well did your parents do at 63? What kind of turning point did they make? What's that? Well, they don't want to answer the question. What's that? So you're seeing a lot of the people have followed in mom and dad's footsteps, which a lot of times has continued to repress the self, and they didn't do very well, and their illnesses got worse, and it didn't help. Well, the whole point is not to make them feel bad. The whole point is now, whatever you missed at 42, you're now 63. A lot of people start to form their bucket list, and it's time for you to be yourself, because Saturn returns and Uranus transits are really good time periods when you learn about who you really are. And what you learn is, dog nabbit, I'm pretty different. And I ain't that bad. And I'm going to let myself try this. I'm going to go do this dancing lesson. I'm going to go do this hiking. I'm going to go do this sailing. And usually, you saw me last week talking about it, I was very serious. Um, um, when so many people come to me, I've got this new idea. Well, where that came from in the last couple of years, I can't remember which transit it was. I think it was Uranus and Pluto were squaring each other. And what it was all about was loosening up, let go. And I finally learned to quit being the cautious Capricorn when I'm talking with these people. I just say, yeah, go do it. Yeah, I see, go do it. No, I don't need an explanation. Just go do it. Yeah, you want to do that? Sounds exciting. Go do it. And I had so many people do well. And you don't want to know why? Because what they're requesting, the child to the adult, what they're requesting wasn't that big a deal. It felt that way inside. What they're requesting was not that big a deal. Me tell that gentleman to go back to that bar and turn the handle and walk into that bar? I'll bet you someday after that he did. I'll bet you he did. I bet you it was life-changing. So we all live and learn, right? We live and learn. And it's tough. I watched some very liberal parents that I know that their houses were always open to all the kids, and the kids always grew up with freedom. I've watched these kids grow in that environment, and they're just terrific adults now. They're just loosey goosey, never had a problem because they were raised that way. Their parents trusted them. They had no television. Really helped. So these are the three. We're going to get to 84, but these are the three major turning points. So you got one at 21. You got one at 42, the midlife. You got one at 63. And now I'm learning now that a lot of the 63s are happening when they're 64 and 65, and I'm not sure why, but they are happening. Don't take them lightly. Don't go the other extreme and just do something nuts, sell the house for a nickel. But don't go the other extreme. Usually when someone calls and says, hey, I got this hard idea, it's a major knock at the door because somebody's been knocking for a long time. They've been knocking a long time. That's why you don't need to know what it is. Just open the door and go. And boy, I tell you, there's just no doubt I've had so much success with people and this principle in the last 5 years uh, during these transits. Have you seen it around you? Have you seen it around you? Have you seen people that got to the point in their early 60s where they just want to go do this and they're not going to stop themselves and they just go do it and they're victorious? Have you seen it? Boy, I sure see it. I see it a lot all the time. So it's amazing to see. Now, when we come back and look between the cracks, okay. When we come back to the circle, and we look and we see, yes, the sixth house, learning new job skill sets. The fifth house, I started writing music. The eighth house, saving money in a different kind of way. This has a lot to do with liberating yourself from what other people think of you. Self-worth becomes yours instead of theirs. Ninth house can become marvelous around 58 or so. This can be a marvelous time in the ninth house because that's a house of exploring and traveling. And let's go see things, let's go learn. So usually by 63, if you haven't liberated yourself by 64, 65, usually there's not going to be much more change after that time because it's just too hard. Some people make it. And then as we get to the 84, which is the completion of a Uranus cycle, we're noted to look at John Paul II. His was exact the day he quit, exact. Ram Dass died a few days after his was liberated. David Hawkins had just written his eighth and ninth book. He said no more. All of a sudden, he had one more and he wrote it real fast. That was because his Uranus cycle wasn't complete yet. You just watch these things, it's just amazing. These people think they're making the decision. It's not, it's the planet. David Hawkins, a fabulous writer on spirituality, age 84. So, what happens at 84 if you're still lucid? And more people are staying lucid to that age. I read somewhere where some of the best work that authors ever do in their life are in their 70s. Some of the best work they ever do. Well, when you get to near 84, the question becomes, I'm now here on this planet. I've been here a long time. Have I accomplished my mission? Have I accomplished my mission? And these things have a life of their own. 81, 82, 83, 84, you'll start to see. And I'll talk to people in that age range, and I'll talk about that, and they'll go, huh? And I just know I'm wasting my breath. So I go to somebody else because they just have never had a self. Other people get a sense, I feel like I'm running out of time. But the planets do something really surprising at that time. And I think it's wonderful, and it is surprising to watch. The planets kind of stretch. Time kind of stretches between 80 and 84. They can sense, are you really working at it? Are you really trying to put a bow on this? Are you trying to finalize your theory of dance, your theory of the universe, whatever? And the time stretches to give you a chance to do your work, including people come into your life to help you, the funds that you need, etc. See, the planets are a lot friendlier than we think they are. We just are so We just have no experience, none. We just don't learn about it. So at 84, usually what happens, like with John Paul II, did you see him at the end? He could not wait to get out of his body. He was burned out. He had gone through so much of carrying his body along with me and the limitations of the body. And everybody was saying, boy, it's a shame you won't be Pope anymore. He just wanted out. That's what the soul does at 84. I will come for whatever reason I came for. It's now complete. And the Lord knows he accomplished great things. Ramdas, Hawkins, all three of them. The other ones have never really released their true mission. And when you haven't released it by 63, it's not going to usually get released later on. So usually by 84, you get time to wrap things up. And an awful lot of people that I know just want to go then. I'm done. I just want to go. I'm not bitter. I'm not unhappy. I'm happy with my life. I want to just go. So those are that's a repeat of the video that's on the beginning of my YouTube video page. If you have any questions about that, including other people around you that you've watched these things happen, notable periods of when you were 21, 42, 63, I do want to mention one or two things first. That when you're 42, Saturn has gone around 1.5 times. Same with 63. So Saturn opening square, it's 3/4 of the way through a Saturn cycle. So it's very common that when you're having these Uranian times, that it can be some confusing because Saturn is active too. And all Saturn's trying to do is lock down these changes, lock them down so they're firm and they're not going to go anywhere and they become solid parts of you. Now, how many people have found these cycles to be intriguing to what happened to you in your life? John, go ahead. Go ahead, tell us about it.
Okay, I had to unmute myself.
That's it.
Okay. Yeah, really very, very clear. When I was 21, that's when I left the seminary. I had been in a seminary for since I was 14. I wanted out.
A long time.
I'd had it with the Catholic Church, with the priesthood. I was full of Uranian energy, and I don't know, maybe even Aresian, I don't know. But I was 21, and that's when I left.
And you just had to get free.
Yeah, but when I was 14, I went in, and that was
14 is Saturn's opposite Saturn.
Yeah. Well, then I thought I wanted to be a priest. I was really
Oh, sure you did, right?
Yeah. So that's when I'm 21. Then, as far as when I'm 42, that was about 1980s, early mid 80s. I had been with a big law firm, and they laid me off. So I did a countrywide search to find a job, and I landed with another place, another firm, which began a very successful career. But that
What
was,
did that? It usually has to do with getting more elbow room.
well, yeah, I hated my job.
Yeah.
The place that laid me off, that was they didn't want me and I didn't want them.
Yeah.
You know, so
You got lucky. That's good.
yeah, they did me a favor.
Good for you.
So then I found a job, became a very successful lawyer. Um, so I'm when I was 63, I sort of my midlife crisis, I guess,
A small C.
small c, yeah. Well, it I was doing very well, but I made a change then. By that time, I was living in Upper St. Clair and had a nice home and all that. So it really wasn't a bad situation. It was good, but somewhere later, maybe around, wait, no, it was around that time actually that I discovered the Course in Miracles.
There you go.
So that again was a huge change in my whole life.
Liberating the self.
Yeah. So when I'm 84, I'm going to want out.
Yeah. Well, I think when you're 84, it's going to be very intriguing. And
Yeah.
you make sure you got some blank pages left when you're 84, because you're going to still be active with that Gemini mind of yours. You leave some blank pages for you.
Yeah, I definitely will. I'm doing a lot of things. I'm being very creative.
Oh, I
But
think that's excellent.
I'm
That's
at a
really
different
excellent.
level. In a different level now, a different place. I am so
So,
extremely happy.
well,
Yeah,
you also see that your success at 84 is directly related to what you did at 63 and 42.
right.
And you saw where you got one wing out, then you got the other wing out.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it's marvelous. That's a really good story. That's
Well,
a really a good example.
part of the good part of it is the last 20 years, all the law that I've done it for free. I represented indigent people, really people in a lot of trouble, and it's been great. I love doing it. But then I retired. Now I'm doing other things. I have my list. I'm working on my list. Writing poetry is one of them. Just being a loving person is another one in so many ways.
Those are two good ideas.
Yeah. So astrology has really helped me, although I'm far, far, far from an astrologer, but
Well, being an astrologer and learning about astrology, two completely different things.
yeah,
Yeah, it sounds wonderful. I mean, it really sounds like you really didn't need much help. And that's a good sign when you look back and you see that you went through each of these doorways and you
yeah.
kind of did what they needed. That's a good sign that your parents weren't too tough on you.
My parents were great.
Well, that's a really good sign.
They were wonderful.
Look at that guy stuck at that doorknob. Can you imagine? Went to the bar and opened the door and had to close it.
Oh yeah.
It's just a sad story. I hope to God today he's doing all right. Well, thank you, John. That was really, really, really good. Really good testament. Anybody else? Come on, anybody else? Line up and sign up. I talk for an hour. Line up, and Teresa's got her hand waving. We'll go to Susan next. Okay, Teresa.
Right. Yeah, that was good, John. I liked yours.
Yeah.
At 21, actually a couple weeks before I turned 21, at the tail end of the Vietnam War, I joined the Air Force. I left Pittsburgh and joined the Air Force and spent my 21st birthday doing KP duty in basic training. So my life really changed.
Happy birthday.
At 21.
Renate, I'll be with you after Susan.
And then at 42, a few years earlier, I'd gone through a really bad divorce, really tough divorce. So I went back to school. And when I was almost 42, I finished my master's program and actually just started my career when I was 42.
Okay,
And
now
then
can we look back one moment Can we look back at 42, which is really important because you notice the seventh house is involved, and that's the house of Libras. Can we notice at that time that you had more respect for your own individuality?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was when I really opened up. I mean, I kind of had to. I was forced
Yeah.
to. So
Well,
I had to look at myself and really form a new identity.
yes, because you can't blame them, but Libra's inherent nature is to make the couple survive. Us
Mhm.
too, as a couple. And you'll see it everywhere. And once they get free of that, it can be really good. Well, now you're right on track. You're 2 for 2, except for the latrine part.
Yeah, and then at 63, like John, that's when around that time was when I found the Course in
There
Miracles.
you go.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you very much. Very good stories. I love to hear the validations. We're going to go to Susan, then to Renate. Susan, go ahead, dear.
So the timing is interesting. You say the first one is around 21, but I'm looking at astro.com, and my first square hit when I was 19.
No. Was it Uranus square Uranus?
Yeah,
Or was it Uranus hitting something else?
Uranus square Uranus. It has my Uranus natally is 27 Cancer, and I was 19 when it hit 27 Libra. That's a
Oh,
square.
wait. What was the degrees?
27
Yeah.
Cancer.
And?
And then when it hit 27 Libra,
Uh-huh.
that's the square, but I was 19.
Okay, all right. It can happen sometimes.
Okay.
That's very rare. It can happen early. It can happen a little
So-
bit late, but usually it's around 21. So it's no big
So-
deal. It's not
so
that rare.
At 19, my dad died, and I wound up living on my own. So that was a whole huge shift.
Sure. Yeah.
But at 21, and I don't know what the thing would be, the aspect, but at 21, I sold everything I owned, bought a one-way ticket to Europe and a Eurail pass, and I ran off.
Oh man, there's Uranus finally hit. See, I
That's
think what happened
why-
to you is one was more Uranian and one was more Saturnian. And
Oh, that could be.
probably when your dad went, it was the Saturn part. Okay, probably. But they can be a little bit off. But yeah, shucking it all going to Europe. Woohoo. I know
Yeah.
a friend of mine went to Florida at 21. He had trouble with arthritis in the cold. She had to go somewhere south. He got to Miami. He said, I want you to give me a ticket, a one-way ticket to some island that has the ability to, they're still covered by the US.
Right.
And I don't care where it is, let's go. And he went there and has had a great time since. That's a great story. So continue. What about 42?
So 42 would have been about 1995, 96. And that was a shift in job from one school district teaching in one district to going to teach in another. I don't know how huge that was. It seemed big at the time, but
Did you have any personal? It's always elbow room. I got more elbow room. I got more freedom.
So 48 would have been the big freedom move. And that would have been divorce. That's huge freedom.
Well, we have to also look at Pluto too. Well, that's intriguing.
Yeah.
What about
63? I'm not so sure, but about 66 is when I took off in the RV, roughly. 65, 66.
Yeah, and boy, you've done well with that. I mean, it's really been successful.
I am enjoying it.
Well, I mean, you really went with it. You really, you can tell your heart and soul went right with it, and I'm sure your artwork went the same way with it. So
Yeah,
that's terrific. And
I've decided to launch something new. I don't know if it's going to work, but when this job ends, I'm working at a campground now, and this is going to end in 7 weeks. And I've put out feelers, but nothing has come up yet. And what I'm thinking instead is I will go paint scenes at touristy areas and try to sell stuff off the easel.
Well, there
So,
you go. Now, keep
I
in
don't know.
mind, I'm not sure, but keep in mind that this is all a prelude to your 84. I think it's a prelude to the 84 question, which is, I've been here all this time. Have I done what I came here to do? It's not an
I don't know
easy,
what I'm here to do.
it's not an easy question, but I think
No.
you're going to be close to a yes. Thank you very much, Susan. Let's go to Renate. Go ahead, dear. You need to unmute yourself.
Okay. Can you understand me?
Yes.
Good. Yeah, so 2021, I immigrated to the United States, but I returned after 6 months.
From
All
what,
at
from
once.
what country?
United States of
From-
America.
From what country?
Oh, Germany.
Oh, from Germany.
Yeah, from Germany. And yeah, I immigrated, but all is of a sudden, as it happens always to me, I woke up in the morning and I knew I had to return. Even that was not planned, so I returned to Germany and got married 1 year later.
Well, we'll look that up someday. We'll find out why that theme happens.
Yeah.
There's a theme there somewhere.
Mm-hmm. I didn't
Probably
really want it
sad.
to. I didn't really want it to marry, but I don't know. It had to be, obviously. I was not pregnant. So, yeah, then with 42, that was big for me. First, I came to astrology, to spirituality. I kicked the love of my life out because I was tired of his having other women telling me he loves me, but that was too much. And I got rid of all my fur coats and jewelry. I was very much into it. And all at once, I wanted to get rid of all that stuff. It was
Wow. That
yeah,
sounds that sounds Plutonian also.
that was an immense cut, yeah. So with 63, I found a spiritual teacher from Canada. And I went on and off to Canada, and finally I immigrated to Canada. Had to go to school again to become a caregiver, because otherwise I couldn't immigrate. But I immigrated because of this teacher. I left after 9 years because he was not clean. 60. So the next is 82. So I had already the return. And yeah, I actually kind of immigrated to Mexico, got my kind of permanent residency there. But I didn't want to let go of my permanent residency in Canada. So I returned to Canada some month ago. And I heard that I have to, actually, I wanted to go back in November to Mexico. But to keep my Canadian permanent residency, I have to stay another year. I made a mistake, what I do very often in counting and checking out stuff. Yes, so now
Well,
I'm
it sounds
sitting
to me
here.
like you've had a rubber band life, huh? Boingy, 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 boingy.
Yeah, yeah. And now, as I told you, Pluto opposition. Oh my God.
Well, we're gonna get into your chart some week, get into it deeply, and find out why all these things are happening. But I think you're doing pretty darn well, and I hope I'm as lucid as you when I'm 82.
Yeah, but I have a lot of fear. There is constant fear. It's not easy.
That can be a lot of reasons.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, now where are you in Canada?
Yeah, I'm back in Canada and I fear the winter. especially after staying almost 3 years in Mexico, where I went for 2 months. Actually, I went to Mexico and I stayed almost 3 years. And
Well,
no,
go visit Naomi down in Australia. Thank you very much, Renate.
You're
Very
welcome.
good. Okay, who's next? Claudia, anybody? Erica? Rick? Rick's up.
Wants to tell us about it.
Rick had his hand up. Yeah, Rick.
Hey, yeah, I remember that we actually talked about privately my 21 year, and that was my immersion into mediumship and house cleansing and paranormal investigations. It was a really big trial by fire almost, and then 42 was then like a double dose, getting into more of it and doing that more close to professionally, you know. So that, and I was, of course, you know, one of those kids with the Uranus Pluto conjunction, so waking up to the spirit world made a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's a hell of a conjunction. And you're not 63 yet.
Right.
Well, come to us for advice for 63. Thank you, Rick. Good, Claudia.
Mine are pretty
Don't say
hello.
tame. Don't say tame.
Tame compared to some of the other folks, but at 21 I moved. I'm sorry. Yeah, I moved out of my house and met, okay, literally from, talk about Uranus. I moved in with my ex-husband who I had met basically like weeks prior. I mean, I was crazy. I if you would have said that I wasn't the kind of person to do this, and then here I was moving in with him. And then at 42, I got a little crazy. Now, me being crazy is nothing, but I got a little crazy with myself. I was dating this person. I was also going through a Pluto transit, but I realized in this conversation that it was the first time probably that I really felt very free in having let myself have fun. Oh, I want to go away for the weekend, let's do it. Oh, I want to have another glass of wine, let's do it. Oh, I want to do that, let's do it. And I didn't
That's it.
it was a little uncomfortable, I have to say, which is actually something I wanted to talk about or ask you. I know we're almost done, but you know, I wonder if fixed signs have a little bit tougher time with Uranus energy.
Yeah, they do. They do.
Yeah.
Even though Aquarius is a fixed sign, yeah, it's not your nature to change. Your nature is to stay put. But
Yeah.
every sign is different. Fixed signs are a weird bunch, and I think I should talk about them someday. They're basically pretty darn successful, and I'm not sure why. They're just was it why
Well,
they
thanks a lot.
well, I mean, compared to all signs. Why is it?
I know.
There's a reason. I'm very academic, actually. It's because they're glued. It's because they're glued to some principle,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that goes a long way.
Yeah.
The other signs aren't always glued to a principle; they're glued to something else. But
Yeah. I see
I'm
what you
sure
mean.
you'll be very, very successful.
One thing I do notice is that in listening to all of you is I find the more I learn about astrology and people in general, that in your 60s, early 60s, mid 60s is your spiritual years start to emerge.
Oh,
fully.
yeah, they really do. Yes.
And I don't know if it's, you know, sometimes it may be triggered by Uranian energy. I don't know, but I could see, you know, with the stories I'm hearing that people, you know, in your 60s, you open up spiritually in
It's
a way.
very,
that's
very
just-
common, yes. And another thing you should all keep in mind is that all of these stories is very common for some Aquarian characters to be the delivery boy in your life.
Mhm.
Or an Aquarian character, male or female or dog, come into your life. Thank you, Claudia. Let's
Mhm.
go with Renate's been raising her hand.
Yeah, I forgot something very important. With 81, I came to Course Miracles, and I got all at once, I got downloads of sacred geometry. I have no air in my horoscope, and I cannot think abstract. No, nothing like that. And I'm doing since then sacred geometry that it's download to me. I had no idea what I'm doing. I'm sitting down and just do it.
We want to
And
look.
did
We want to
already
look at that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I did already over 70 now, all completely different ones, and I have no no influence what I
Yeah,
want.
we want to look at that. That's for sure.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
from a major. That's from a major transit. Yes, and there's
Yeah.
also a book that Liza and I want to tell you about sacred geometry. It's just marvelous. We'll tell you about that next week. Thank you, Renate. Let's go back to Rick. You are muted.
I just thought I'd go ahead and give a heads up that in regard to 62 to 63, there is a transiting asteroid that hits its return. It's Caraclo. It's the wife of Chiron. So instead of being a wounded healer, it's more shamanic. So after 60 plus years of looking at life, there's an awareness that goes deeper.
Well,
It
I
really
would
helps
not
you
be
step in.
surprised because I'm definitely noticing a great pattern of a lot of people coming to me and getting released, but they are about 66.
Mhm.
They're beyond the 63, 65, 66. I'm having a real consistent era. That's the ones that are saying, I don't care what it is anymore. I'm not listening to it anymore. I'm just going to do it. And I think that's really good. Thank you, Rick. Here comes a drawing by Susan. She's got a natural drawing of trees and a lake.
This is the Shenandoah Valley
Oh, it's
from a
beautiful.
photo. Oops.
Beautiful.
So I'm decided to really work on landscapes now so that I could see if I could maybe do plein air and you know, supplement that way.
That's beautiful. You're really good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, we got
And I have
Renate.
on my shirt one of my early things.
What is your drawing too?
Yeah, that's what I send. That is this downloads I get.
Oh, wow. Yeah, we're going to want to take a good look at Renate's chart.
And
Yeah.
I could never ever draw anything, not even a house before. So
There's Neptune, there's Uranus. You may have gotten two at once, but that's what the big planets will do to you. Well, that's marvelous. Okay, who's next? We got about 6 more minutes. Hey, Eric, Marcia, bud. Go ahead, Marcia. Unmute yourself.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
At 21, I was in the Apple shop
With
with
me.
you,
That was wild.
and that was a wild time of life,
Yeah, it was great.
like nothing I'd ever experienced, and
It was great.
had great stuff. It had some heavy stuff too.
Yeah.
Yeah. 42, I was getting prepared to do an adoption of a baby from China.
Wow.
Major research. No, not Macintosh Apple, the Apple shop in Whitesburg, Kentucky.
Film workshop down in
Yeah.
Kentucky.
And
Well, did your at 42, did your adoption have to do with you liberating yourself?
oh, most definitely.
Is that right?
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. liberating
You
myself.
had a pretty fun, terrific family.
Yes. Yeah, although it was a lot of freedom, a
Yeah,
lot of
very creative,
expression.
very creative. Becky says some of us got pregnant at 42.
Yeah, well, it was like my
Well, it
pregnancy.
wasn't me.
Yeah.
Okay, what
And-
about the 63?
And then at 63, I was so happy because I was rid of a terrible relationship. And I was just
Oh.
on my own, raising my daughter, working in the theater. I was very happy.
And you got free.
Yeah. And at 66, I really got free, or 65, because I got married. You know. So,
I think we should clap for everybody.
oh,
Okay, who has not shown up yet? Erica, don't always wait till last. Go ahead, dear.
Well, I talked so much about myself about that, but I don't know. I'm a little off because I kind of rolled at the 18, and then 65,
You're a slur.
965. Ooh, let me take out the.
You're locking up on us.
Sorry about that. Is this better?
Yeah,
It's those darn earbuds. They screw
the
me.
earbuds do it. Yeah.
So when I was 18 is when I really rebelled, and I left the, you were saying that the more pushed down you are, the more dramatic it is. Well, I went to an all girls Catholic school taught by nuns wearing a uniform, and so I went to college, and my parents wanted me to come home because I was going to classes with the seniors because I wasn't interested in some of my classes, and I was like experiencing nothing like I ever had a chance to experience before because of how protective they were. And so they wanted me to come home. And I said, no way. And I went to New York. I hitchhiked to New York
All right, Eric.
with I didn't know it at the time, but he was a cannabis dealer.
And probably in a
And then I
crowd.
ended up in the village, in the coffee shops where Bob Dylan and Joan Baez were playing, and I didn't even know it. I thought pot was something that you cook in. I didn't find out
Yeah.
about that until I was in the village.
That's terrific.
But that's how I got there.
How did we all meet each other anyway?
By the time I was 21, I realized, I couldn't really survive. So I ended up going back home and trying again. And that didn't work too well. So I got married for about 5 months, and then I left that. And I went back to New York. And, I just, I studied in acting school. I tried different things. I got in the fashion business. I was involved in the, like film editing and trying out different things. My parents wouldn't pay for my school because I wouldn't become a doctor, a lawyer, or an Indian chief. They didn't want to pay for acting school or arts or something like that. So I ended up being in New York, and it was the 60s, it was the 70s, it was a fantastic time, disco dancing and fashion and meeting gay people and finding out about, the wild side of life, like what you guys were saying, because of the times.
We got a great group, don't we?
I'm sorry?
I said we got some kind of great group. I don't know how we found each other. We sure did. Yes.
Yeah.
Susan's
So by
got
the time I was 42, I had started out originally, before all this happened, my dream was just to fall in love and be a parent, but my heart was broken. So I had done all this other stuff instead. So by the time I was 42, I got married. And by the time I was 42, I became a mother by adoption because I could no longer, I had trouble getting pregnant. We had trouble getting pregnant. So we adopted our daughter. But by the time I was 63, that was after my daughter had taken her life. And so we had started getting involved in, working for suicide prevention and a net under the bridge and all that kind of stuff. And I did become very spiritual, but that was because I just really didn't want to live anymore after she died. And it just took me to a whole different place. So my life is kind of different that way. I don't know if that was liberating or not, but I was, I'm an earth sign. A lot of Aries, a lot of Leo, very connected just to life and earth and not so much spiritual except for nature. So maybe her death, that brought me more into the spiritual. And
we need a wild O-meter on each person,
meter.
on each person in each square. See where far it tilts. Before everybody, listen, we're running out of time. I want to get.
Ethan wants to say something though.
I want to get to Naomi before
sorry.
Well, she has not had any time at all.
Sorry, Naomi.
You're right. That was an interesting story. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. With me, 21, I was living in India, traveling and exploring Asia. And then 42, my husband and I broke up and I became a single mum with a 2-year-old, 3-year-old, and started working in the Buddhist temple. But I remember feeling that through that period, that I had to be more myself. I just wasn't being me. And, through those years, I, got to, and still standing into being more authentic. Congruent.
That's Uranus, yeah.
Yeah, and then 62, it's unfolding now. Like my husband's died nearly a year ago now, but I don't know if that's Uranus. But I've had to really stand up for myself. So it's
that was all Pluto.
Yeah, but it feels internally like I've had enough. Like that's it.
Yeah, let's all take a break from that. Okay, well, we're at the very end. I want to thank you very much. Let's take 1 second and Rachel is saying that she co-founded a support group. Well, you can tell us about that next week, Rachel, because I want to finish by giving Susan one more chance because she had her hands raised.
I just wanted to say that when Erica was hitchhiking from California to the village in New York at 21, when I got back from Europe, from my little one-way trip to Europe, I wound up finding my way back in a bizarre manner. But when I got back, I got as far as New York, and I hitchhiked from there back to California. So we passed each other at 21.
That was from Michigan I was escaping, not California. If it was California, I might have stayed here.
How did I find all you guys anyway? Welcome, everybody. Thank you all for your wonderful stories. We've all validated the fact that we're all in the right group.
Yeah.
See you next week.
Thank you.
Blessings.
Good night,
Take care
everybody.
and many
Good night,
blessings.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Take
Love.
care,
Yes,
everyone.
right. Stop.